Bad little flex, she wanna know me. I stay low key, all gas, no brakes, baby, let them hoes sleep. Body on 10, make your girl OD. I get in my way, never out of my lane. Feel like you the one and I'm on one. So what it's gonna be? Baby, squad up, we finna go deep. Riding on a team, got what you need. Baby, won't you keep me company? Give me something to do when I get lonely. I got something for you when we get home. If you let me put it down, when I hit the town, you should ride on me. Keep your minds on me. On try, baby, I think you should side with me. Stay solid one time if you lie with me. Just promise you never lie to me. Keep the moves on tuck. I know it's all love. Everything good. Keep the vibes on crush. I know it's all good. Know it's all love. Know it's all love. I've been feeling like the man lately. Can't nobody do it like I can. Daily, baddest in the land. Body turn your nigga to a fanny up. I made it where I'm at on my own. Had a couple blocks in the road, but I get to the bag on the low. I be counting stacks while they grow, yeah, you know me. Baby, won't you keep me company? Give me something to do when I get lonely. I got something for you when we get home. If you let me put it down, when I come in town, you should ride on me. Keep your minds on me. On try, baby, I think you should side with me. Stay solid one time if you lie with me. Just promise you never lie to me. Keep the moves on tuck. I know it's all love. Everything good. Keep the vibes on crush. I know it's all good. Know it's all love. Know it's all love.
Just one glass in, you're already on my mind. When it gets late, I always realize that I need you. Are you thinking about me tonight? It's no secret, all my friends already know. There's no reason to hold it back, I let it show. All my feelings, are you thinking about me tonight? Your hands around my waist, just let the music play. Like a drug, I am hooked on you. Sweeter than summer wine, baby, just hold me tight. Like a drug, I am hooked on you. And that makes me say, oh man, you make it feel like paradise. Goddamn, I think I'm gonna lose my mind. Oh man, you make it feel like paradise. Paradise. I'm taking a mental picture in my mind just to keep this moment till the end of time. 'Cause I know that it might be over after tonight. So before I change my mind, your hands around my waist, just let the music play. Like a drug, I am hooked on you. Sweeter than summer wine, baby, just hold me tight. Like a drug, I am hooked on you. And that makes me say, oh man, you make it feel like paradise. Goddamn, I think I'm gonna lose my mind. Oh man, you make it feel like paradise. Paradise. Bittersweet, give it to me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday night's show. Me and Big Al will be here any minute. And our show is Get Your Mind Right. So, the past couple weeks, we've been talking about gut and its connection, of course, to the brain and how what we're eating affects our overall gut health And now we're going to jump to upstairs and just a little bit talking about what's going on um, in the brain and how powerful it is. So, just gonna wait a little bit, wait for some people to come in before we get going. Hope everyone's having a great night so far, and hope everyone caught Dusta's show. That was so crazy. He's too much. Um, hello, hello. Hey, IXL. How's it going? All right. Looks like we're having some link issues. Um, hmm. All right. Okay. So while we wait for my co-host, we're going to be talking about the brain. And I think a lot of people, most people, um, don't know. We're never taught about it, you know. It's kind of like you got a brain and that's it. Um, whereas, well, even for physical health, we're not really taught about that either. But, you know, how to work out, move, exercise, how to improve, you know, your strength, things like that. Um, oh, hey, girl.
Hey, hey. Oh, wait, hang on.
What's up? Let me make sure I hear you.
Okay, hello?
Hey. Okay.
Okay,
Want to make sure it wasn't my
hey.
volume. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Um,
Do I sound okay?
all right, let's, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you do to me. I
okay,
hope,
cool.
uh, Jenny, let us know, um, if, you know, anything sounds different. Hey, What We Know podcast. Um, Robert, JT. Welcome everyone. Let's see. Okay. All right. So let's ready to rock and roll. So,
Yes.
all right. So I was talking before about how we were talking about gut health, you know, past couple weeks. And I kind of want to talk about broadly, and just surface level about the brain because let me ask you, what do you know about the brain?
That is actually pretty small. I think growing up, I always thought it was like big, but it's really pretty small, and
Yeah.
it's levels. I know it's levels to it. It's a wormhole I have not dove
Well, none
into.
of us have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. Like, I'm kinda gonna, like, ask you I'm gonna be, like, putting you on the spot, but there's no right or wrong
Oh,
you
it's no
know,
shame in my game.
answers.
No Bill Nye over
Okay.
here.
Im no, you're good, because these are things that I, you know, learned, and it's like, why does no one tell us this stuff? And, you know, everyone in the chat, let me know what you think, and maybe, you know, what do you know about the functions of the brain? What's possible? You know, what it's capable of? Um, you know, if you were to think about, okay, what does your heart do? Well, you would probably say pumps blood, whatever. It's a vital organ. Well, what does the brain do? That type of stuff. So, you know, just totally swerving to a totally different topic, but I'm going to connect the two. Hey, Steven, my best friend. What's going on? Everyone, when you come in, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Black Man Unfiltered Network. Um, Great family over here. Got lots of great shows. Okay, so Chef Big Al, I know you have an iPhone because when we text, it's blue. When you first got your iPhone, like literally the first day, picture it. What did you do when you opened, you know, the box up and you're holding your brand new iPhone and you turn it on. What do you do next?
Set it up.
What do you mean?
Go through the prompts on the screen. Restore my
Yeah.
backup. Yeah. Get all my contacts and stuff back.
Okay. What else? Specifically, what else do you do?
Charge it. I don't
Maybe.
know.
Yeah. Like
I
when you set it
mean,
up, like what's different from your iPhone than maybe my iPhone?
my well, they don't do the Touch ID anymore. The Face ID.
Yeah,
That was
that's
like the
for
Face
sure.
ID.
I have a twin and
Um.
we can unlock each other's phone. It's kind of
Oh
cool.
my gosh, really?
Yeah, sometimes it
That's
doesn't work, but
hilarious.
I know.
That's hilarious.
But
Well,
like,
yeah, because I think they work even now, like with your mask on. Like they're pretty
oh
like
yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that stuff.
top
But anyway,
flight.
besides the face stuff, what else is different? Like, why would it be
Well, like
uncomfortable
my
using my phone versus yours?
well, of course, like with the iPhones, you can personalize the menu and download whatever apps that you want. And so
Bingo.
I know me, I'm like one of those people that puts like everything in a category. And so people,
Mhm.
when they do get my phone, they're like, "Where are your maps at? Where is the music at?" And it's funny because, of course, when I get it, I'm like, do, 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 do. And they're like, where is everything at? So,
Right.
yeah.
And let's say you pick up my iPhone and it's not it doesn't feel as like home and like, as user friendly because it's set up differently. And when if you were to feel like to do that and like feel uncomfortable, would you blame the iPhone or would you blame like the way that I set it up?
Um, I mean, I feel like blame is like,
Well, okay,
how can I be?
that's a
Because why
strong
am I
word.
mad? I'm like, why am I
Yeah.
mad?
Yeah, like when like kind of when it's just like, oh, I can't find something like, I can't,
Yeah.
where do
But
you
I
put this?
mean,
Kind of
yeah,
like
I
using
would
your
drill it
boyfriend's phone or
down.
something.
I would drill it down to a user error, the user being me, not you or the iPhone. Because you did
Right.
what you were supposed to do. The iPhone's doing what it's supposed to do. It's functioning
Right.
properly.
Right. Well, right, exactly. No, you did perfect with it. So just like, it's not the iPhone and it's really not us because, whoever's the user is the one that set it up. The iPhone is just doing what it's supposed to do. And there's a reason that we customize our iPhone or our computer in a certain way because we want it to work for us. And we also do regular, updates and that whatever Apple sends us and then, we tidy up every now and then. I have like 3,000 pictures. I need to like
You don't
go.
even want to know what I
How many you
have.
got?
It's like in the teens. I got like 20,000 photos, and I've got
Oh,
like the highest amount of additional storage that you can buy. It's like a terabyte.
oh my God. Okay.
But
No,
I
not
mean, I
that
take
bad.
pictures. I take pictures all the time for like food content and social media content. So I don't have a digital camera, so everything is done on my phone. So
Right,
it's
right,
packed. It's
right.
locked and
Okay.
loaded.
Mine's the same way. So it's like, sometimes we might go through messages or whatever. We might clean it up every now and then, make sure that like it's not only working properly, but it's functioning, especially when it comes to the updates, it's functioning at the highest level, right? So basically our brain is the same way. Hey, Drina's Haven, thanks for being here. And hey, Beautifully Animated and Marcus. Hey guys. Um, hey everybody, welcome. We're talking about little introduction to the brain. So with the iPhone or like setting up a computer, our brain is just functioning the way that it is. And it's going to do what it does unless you change it up and tell it to do something different. So most of us like have heard, and I hear this on the internet all the time, which is the prefrontal cortex isn't formed until you're 25, which is true. But it it kind of leaves the impression that our brain is just formed and it's done. Like we're stuck. Have you ever thought about that? Like, have you ever thought that? Or anyone
No,
in the chat, do you feel stuck? Do you think your brain can be changed? Or your
I definitely feel
cognitive
like,
ability? What's up?
yeah, I definitely feel like that can change with time. Especially just like when they say ignorance is bliss,
Mhm.
like the more you learn, like the more kind of sometimes frustrated you just get. And you start thinking of things differently. Like, of course, you don't think the same way now that you thought when you were a kid.
For
And a
sure.
lot of people, the way that younger people, or I'll say less experienced, because age really is subjective to the person. But the more experience you go through, I feel like the more your
Mhm.
perspective changes. There's things
For
that
sure.
you do differently based off what you know,
Yeah.
and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I always think that, there's always something new to learn. You'll never know everything. And
Right.
with each new piece of information that you learn, it may inspire a change or, a different perspective in something. So I feel like the brain it's constantly growing. It never stops.
Yeah, for sure. And a way and one, inclination that is how we know that it changes is when um something becomes second nature. Like when you first started cooking, what was challenging at first for you?
I used to cook with the heat way too high. I don't know
Yeah.
what was going on. And it was funny because like my dad, like eggs was the one thing that I struggled with. I think that was the first thing that I really struggled with
Over
because
medium, like how? 1 minute it's like goopy, and then in a split second, it's cooked all the way through, and it's like, I just wanted like a
oh,
little bit of yolk.
it used to be so funny because my dad would make these perfect, beautiful eggs, like, and they would just slide right off the skillet. And then
Mhm.
here I am in my free time trying to make an egg, and he comes up behind me and he's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, this is an egg," but he really
Right.
didn't, because what did I make? What did I do? And it when you think of like cooking, you think of heat. You need heat to cook.
Mhm.
And high is high and low is low, but it's not just one or the other. It's a whole lot of numbers in between. They're there for a reason. So I think it's also like kind of like when you start driving, you kind of just vroom, hit the gas, and then you realize,
Mhm.
oh, it's levels to this. It's levels. It's levels. So it was kind of like that for me with cooking and managing heat control.
Yeah, and driving is an excellent example because now it's like we get somewhere and it's like, "How did I even get here?" You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
especially, a road that we travel, when we go
Yeah.
home or whatever. So, our brain is still developing even after childhood and adolescence. It doesn't stop growing. And basically it's not as malleable, um, but it's still producing as many as 10,000 new neurons every day until the day we die. Um, Drina says the brain is so powerful. In my 20s, my brain started secreting a hormone that made my body think I was pregnant. Interesting.
I've heard about, I forget what the exact, is it a phantom pregnancy? I think that's what it is. And
Interesting.
there's been cases where women will wholeheartedly think that they're pregnant, and in some cases, they even gain weight or become excessively bloated. They'll skip their period, and there's no
Wow.
baby in there. There's no baby in there at all. And
That
it's,
is so interesting.
yeah, I don't think that science has been able to fully explain it, but
Phantom pregnancies. Yeah, well, that's interesting because while I was doing some of my research to kind of like, get a clear cut, explanation for everything, it did bring up like phantom limbs. That is so interesting. I'm gonna do some research into that. That is fascinating.
yeah,
Thanks for mentioning that. Interesting. But yes, the brain, oh
the
my,
brain is powerful.
it is extremely powerful. So and then, so going back to like the things that we're doing, over and over. So there's something called neuroplasticity. And I was talking about the brain, developing. So, or brain plasticity. So it's basically the brain's ability to change its activity in response to something internal or external, like experiences, by recognizing its structure, functions, and connections. So the brain is not fixed. That is like the most important thing to know. Um, but what the brain does often, like driving or like cooking on a certain heat that's not, effective, what the brain does often, or what we do often, the brain does well. So that goes for good habits and bad habits. So it gets really good at doing what it's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That
second
makes sense.
nature. Hey,
Yeah.
Hank. So any, old and repeated thought pattern, repeated, that's a key word there. The brain is efficient, like a computer process or whatever. It gets really good at doing that. So it's like, I don't know code, but like if you input something, the brain is like, oh, okay, this is important. And it gets really good at doing that same thing. I thought about explaining like the neurotransmitters, and I'm like, Katie, just stop. Like, don't go there. Like, that's just too much. But it is interesting.
No, it's super interesting.
But like, does all of this make sense so far?
Yes, I was gonna say too, like side
Yeah.
note, like it's
Yeah.
funny that you bring up coding because like
Yeah.
when we were like in elementary, middle school on MySpace building these layouts, we were coding like with the clip art and the HTML codes and
Oh,
all
yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
You ask me to do that now, I don't know how. But after MySpace ended, there was no need for us to work that hard. Hey, what we know?
Right. Hey, Rob. That's so true.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we were literally like 10, 11 years old and we were coding. We were building websites.
Mhm.
And just like how at one point in time there weren't GPS systems, you had to know where you were going, or you had to be able to know how to read a map or take directions and follow them.
Yeah.
There weren't cell phones. You get lost, you're screwed. You better go back where you came and hope that you could get back where you started.
Right.
Now people don't remember telephone numbers. They don't know addresses. They don't know how to get around their hometown.
'Cause we're not, like,
Um,
having to think
we're not,
that as
yeah,
much about these
yeah,
things.
yeah. If you
That's
ask
so
me
true.
to build a MySpace page today, it's gonna be like all white.
I'll
It's
pay
not gonna be
someone.
anything on there. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's like this this is so good. So and it's so fascinating. So it's like, the brain becomes efficient, and it's not its fault. And actually, I appreciate that because the things that are useful, I want to be able to do like that. No problem. Don't have to like go through that learning process all over again because it's something that I'm doing on the regular. So now it's like stored away, in a cabinet. This is what this is important. This is a priority.
Mhm.
But things that are natural, like stress eating or, worrying, if we do that a lot, the brain is going to do it. And, you know, especially with patterns in, the process of being efficient, if the brain sees patterns like, well, when we see this, we think this or feel this way, well, it's going to keep doing that. Um, and this goes back to the primitive times, where we had to hunt and we lived in caves to, eat and survive. And, we're going to talk a lot about that on another show. But that's just how our brain has evolved to, exert the least amount of energy and to just be efficient, to run efficiently, just like our computers and stuff. We got updates, whatever. So when people say, that's just the way that I am, I just do this. This is just how, that's not true. You, you've just been your computer has just been that's what you've been telling it to do. It's just doing what it's
Mhm.
supposed to, what
Mhm.
it's running the way it's supposed to. You
Mhm.
just got to reprogram it. And that brings awareness, which we'll talk about, but that's where transformation comes in. Like I said, the brain can grow, it does grow, and it can change.
Mhm.
So far, so good. Makes sense. You're my direct audience. People in the chat, let me
Yeah.
know. Um, so again, this is very just, surface level stuff. But when I first learned about this stuff, I was like so empowered because I was like, wow, I'm not stuck. Like, especially when I've talked about this many times when it came to my behavior and my emotions and the way that I responded
Mhm.
to my boyfriend at the time, now my fiance. When I found this out, but also too, it's incredibly important for this is why I work with young people, for kids and teenagers in school, because when we tell ourselves this is the pattern. If we tell ourselves we can't do it, the brain, we're going to basically produce evidence that we
Mhm.
can't,
Mhm.
right? And then we're not going to put in, like when you were learning to, well, when we were learning to drive, or when with the heat settings, for cooking, it took repetition, it took work hours. But if you don't think you can do it, are you going to put in the work hours? You know?
Yeah, no. Because
No.
you've already talked yourself out of it before you've
Right.
even started. You haven't
Right.
given yourself a fair chance.
Yeah. And then,
And you also
go
have to
ahead.
be realistic too. I think that people just don't set realistic goals sometimes. To think that you're going to be able to master something that it takes years for people to master overnight,
Mhm, mhm.
that's not really fair.
Yeah,
You're
and
like,
then
see,
w
I
that's
told you I couldn't do it, like, but you also
yes,
did not try.
that's something, yes, that's such a yes, that is so good, because, and kids will do this in school. I mean, we all do this in school, but
Hmm.
now, looking back, we'll do this in school where it's like, well, see, like, they're getting this grade or whatever, but we don't see the work that they put in at home or whatever. So we just automatically think we can't, and then we don't.
Hmm.
And then we
Hmm.
prove ourselves right because we get the poor grade or whatever it is. But this all actually stems from not the computer really, in our brain. It's just us telling ourselves that we can't.
Right, right. Hmm.
And it's something, as a coach, we will say to clients is if people will say, well, I've never done it before, so I can't. But like
Hmm.
we never walked before we learned to walk. Like what?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
That comfort zone.
Right. And it's uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable because the brain is wired, and has evolved to keep us, away from danger.
Hmm.
Um, so before, when something was scary and new, that wasn't good. Like, probably a new like territory or a new landscape or something. I don't know, a new animal. I'm not sure. Oh, you know, but now we're
I mean, like,
safe.
think about the first person that like went skydiving.
That's true.
Like, what were they on? Like,
Why would they do that?
it worked, and I'm sure I've heard from people that have went. It's a really exhilarating, like life changing experience. I'm gonna take their word for it. I don't know. I feel like maybe like I might do something like that like on my honeymoon, but like I can't just like,
Right.
oh, it's Saturday, let me go skydiving. Like
No. I
I'm
mean,
not cut like that. But
my,
kudos to the
yeah.
people that are, because that's lit. But no, mm-mm.
Yeah. Like
That's scary.
my fiance jumped out of planes, in the military. I'm not doing that. Well, I'll go with him, but then, of course, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot it's, like, much higher." Duh, like, when you skydive. But you know what too, though, is thank goodness those people who all, innovators or whatever fought through the fear and the unknown, and
Mm-hmm.
and we have them to thank for all of the amazing advancements we have today. Like, someone was like, hey,
Right.
I bet there's a better way, let me try this. I don't know if it's going to work out, but let me try it. And
Right.
now we have all this,
Right.
like, what, you know
Right.
so it's like
Yeah.
the
But it also, I feel
Mhm.
like, goes into a lot goes into people's home environment and
Mhm.
the type of people that you surround yourself with, because um,
Yeah.
even something small from somebody that you hold to a high standard, you
Mhm.
know, they can completely swap your decision. You can be 100% ready to go, confident, and then they say something and you're like, oh, well, like maybe I didn't think about that, or you're right, like, that's not something that I can do. Like, I am dreaming too big. Like, let me dream smaller. And I think that is why it's so important to have people around you that
Mhm.
do speak positivity into you and uplift you. It's a balance, and that was something like how you were mentioning how I had to learn about my behavior, because at
Mhm.
one point in time I just was so blunt and so cutthroat. And I'm like, I'm the good friend, I'm the real friend, I'm the one telling everybody how it is.
Right.
Y'all sugarcoating stuff and da 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 da. Okay, but you over here hurting people's feelings and people not even hearing your message. Oh,
Right.
okay. So let me chill. So it all comes down to a good balance, but I think that a lot of it starts at home. A lot of
For
people too,
sure.
they grow up in households. Parents are maybe bitter, or maybe they're not optimistic based off of the goals that they didn't make, or in their life, and they drill down those habits, those limitations into their kids. And so the
Yeah.
kids grow up and they're like, no, like I want to do that, but I know I can't.
Well, and that, yes, and especially bringing up kids, and Beautifully Animated says, she talks about her equilibrium being off and she wants it back. I don't know for sure, because like the brain is very complex, but at the same time, with the different parts of it, I would look into it. I like there's people that have had injuries and different like disorders, and it's all about integrating the parts of the brain. And if you want to know more about this, Dr. Daniel Siegel in his book Mindsight, very good. Dr. Daniel Siegel, Mindsight. But Beautifully Animated, I wholeheartedly believe that you can make it happen for sure. Now, it's going to take work. It's not going to be easy. Um and hey DL, thanks for being here. Um but back to the childhood. So when kids are young, their brain isn't formed. It's very malleable. They're basically sponges. So they're taking in all this information. And then when they go into adolescence, that's when the brain starts like pruning like all the things that it learned. Like, okay, let's keep this, let's get rid of the rest, because, we don't need all of this. We got to be efficient. But if, a child learned all these, negative traits or whatever, then it's going to, replicate those things in the future. And it's this also provides a level of understanding too. Like, this is how I grew up. This is what I grew up around. Again, awareness
Hmm.
and self, compassion. Like, no wonder, I jump to this, or I'm like very quick to be negative. Well,
Hmm.
so it's like, okay, makes sense. Um, hey, Nurse Fancy. Hey, Lady Nova. I'm sure we'll be dropping the link. We started a little bit later, but hey, Ruled by Venus. Thanks for being here. So I think we'll be going till 9:15. So we'll drop the link a little bit in a little bit for sure. Definitely want to hear what you got on this, Nurse Fancy. But transformation and changes are possible,
Hmm.
but they're uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like a lot of people, when you do have that childhood trauma, first
Mm-hmm.
of all, acknowledging is the big first step,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the times we have kind of buried whatever trauma we have or whatever negativity that we have, we bury it deep down because it hurt us. We didn't like
Right.
how we felt when that happened, and so we just don't want to remember it, even
Right.
though it's still with us, because
Right.
now we think differently, we're treating people differently, we're acting differently. um, there has to come a point, where you do acknowledge, okay, something's wrong, let me do some digging. And I think this is where therapy really comes into help.
Mm-hmm.
Having an unbiased opinion, someone who doesn't know you, to kind
For
of not
sure.
necessarily analyze your life, but really analyze it. Because at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of us, once we reach adulthood, we need a lot of rewiring, um,
Yes.
and
And
we
it,
don't realize it. And
yes.
people use, my dad was this, my he wasn't around, my mom was this, and when I was 5, my mama permed my hair and my hair never came. Like, okay, but you 35 now. So we can't be 5-year-old whoever anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, not to take away from anyone's trauma or hurt, but when you look around and see what so many people have had to overcome and thrive to, and they're still decent people,
Mm-hmm.
you can overcome it. But it is really, really, really hard. And I think what makes it so hard, for one, is that we are so comfortable in our ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
But two, a lot of people, like I said, they do not think anything is wrong. They don't think
Yep.
anything is wrong.
Well, why
There
why
is
and
no
why would
problem.
they? It's scary.
You're
The
the
brain is
problem.
like, "Danger, danger." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, "Let's not go outside." That
it is a choice. And I say that all the time. Even I have to tell myself sometimes, I have really, really lows.
for
Sometimes
sure.
I'm really, really feeling high.
For
But
sure.
when I have those lows, I have to tell myself, Allison, you're choosing to feel this way.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but it's so easy to be right here. Like I could, I effortlessly just feeling this way. And maybe I just want to be sad today. But why would you want to be sad? Like,
Right.
let's get up, let's do something. And all it takes is me getting in the car. Like, I'm not even at my destination. I got the windows down, my music on. I'm in
Mhm.
a completely different mood. And it took me, 2 minutes to literally change the narrative of my day. But some
Mhm.
people, they never get to those 2 minutes. And
Right.
I don't always get to those 2 minutes. I feel like it's a struggle. Some life is hard, but
Right.
you literally, you are in so much control, and your
Yep.
brain is in so much control. So
Yeah, and it's like we're underutilizing it. Like, let's be
yeah.
sad about the things that we wanna be sad about, like,
Hmm.
loss, you know, disappointment sometimes, but let's not suffer about our own suffering, or let's not be sad because someone wrote a mean comment. Like, the when we're sad about, when we lose someone or someone gets a cancer diagnosis, we
Hmm.
wanna be sad. But of course, we need that contrast because when we feel like life is good, um, how do we know that life is good? Well, because of those bad times. We need those bad times to appreciate the good times. You need that 50-50 contrast.
Because
But
good times wouldn't even be good times without bad times. They would just,
right.
be part of the day.
Right, and it's something that, like, I always I don't have kids, but, me and my I almost said boyfriend. Me and my fiancé talk about, like, we have the sweetest cat. He's literally the sweetest, and he's, like, 10, and sometimes my brain my I always say this, like, I will think about how it's gonna hurt so bad to lose him eventually, and I know it will, but that's what makes him being here now and loving him so sweet. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
you know what I mean? So, like, I'm so lucky that I get to love him this much. And that's what's going to allow it to hurt so bad later on, you know? But you know, when it comes to what happens, you know, in our past or whatever, M Mills, that is a fact. That is for sure. And like, especially, and I'm
That's
sure
the
Big
only
Al,
way to get
you
things
can
done
attest to this,
sometimes.
like venturing out on your own, like in a business, I have overcome so much, but like this is like, oh my God, this is so scary.
It's
But
a
the
everyday
same
struggle.
thing, you know, you just gotta learn. But something that, and I saw, you know, I was, you know, doing some scientific research because I know a lot of this, but I want to make sure, you know, it's all cited or whatever. But this is also empowering for me because now we have the control internally. We've always had it. We just didn't know that we had it. Like we have the ability to, you know, program the computer or whatever, make it work for us versus against us. And because if we base, you know, our results and our how we feel on everything outside of us, well then we're at the effect of everything. Like we can't do anything. That's so powerless. You know, we feel so powerless. But when we learn, and what I'm, you know, trying to share today, to teach people what we can control, then it's like, wow, I have a lot more freedom than I originally thought. And now I'm going to go, you know, figure out what is, you know, what I don't like, that, you know, the way that I'm operating, and then, you know, go from there instead of just taking it like, well, this is my deck of cards. It's all I got. It's not true, you know?
And I think it all still, you know, goes back to childhood trauma. I mean, that's when you developed your brain and your thought process and the
Mhm.
things that you may have thought that you liked.
Right.
Especially, you know, in some scenarios, you'll have parents that are trying to relive their youth through their kids and, oh, you're on the football team. I want to be on the chess team. No, no son of mine is going to play chess. You on the football team. I don't want to play football. You know, a lot of the times, especially, you know, in certain environments. I know, like, and it's crazy because I would have friends that I felt like had really strict parents, and I would have friends that I thought had really lenient parents,
Right.
and I would have friends that were kind of in between, and I always thought my parents were kind of like in between. But as an adult, I realized that I think that they actually took a little bit more thinking power away from me than they probably realized they did.
Yeah.
And I think, again, coming from an older generation,
Mhm.
um, kids don't know anything. So
Right.
that's you know, I feel like how um, my parents' parenting style. I think that's how it was implemented. You know, it was don't ask questions, stop
Mhm.
being nosy. Um, you know, I know, especially when it comes to little boys, I've seen it and it breaks my heart because it's ridiculous
Mhm.
that, you know, a lot of parents won't let their young sons cry
Mhm.
or, you know, be upset about something. And
Mhm.
it's like they're a child. Children cry. And when you
Right.
force them to suppress those emotions, you know, they don't just grow up one day and are like, okay, well, now it's okay for me to be emotional and express what I'm feeling.
Right.
No, now they're traumatized. They don't want to cry because they're gonna be looked at as less than, or
Right.
they remember you, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. Be quiet.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
know, a lot of people at one point, because you could go sit and talk to your friends and like, oh yeah, my mama chased me around the house with the belt. That's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
normal. Like that's not okay. Like that's not okay. And you
Right.
don't even realize, you know, that you're traumatized from that until it's time to get the rewiring. Because you digging, you sitting here, why do I get so jumpy? Why am I so paranoid? Why can't I cry? Why can't I express myself? I've talked to
Right.
men that, you know, lost their fathers or lost their
Mhm.
grandfathers, and they're like, I didn't cry, you know, when I got the news, or I didn't cry at the funeral. And I'm just like, I remember when my grandma died, they almost had to call 911 to get me out of work. I was about to
Right.
pass out. Like, and I
Mhm.
was screaming. I did not care. But I feel like, women are usually more so allowed to do that. And
Mhm.
so it's just you grow up in these households
Yep.
and you have these things implemented and they kind of tattoo to you, they stain to you until you get old enough. Even now it's certain things, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna say this to her. I'm gonna tell
Mhm.
her because I'm an adult, and
Mhm.
it's like,
Mhm.
girl, talk to her. Like, what are you scared for? Like, I'm still 12-year-old Allison.
Right.
And it's not
Right.
like my parents were violent or anything, but they just, they felt like they knew what was best for me, and so they did a lot of the thinking. But when you do that, you take that person's ability away to think. So when they do get old and you don't
Mhm.
want them calling on you 24/7 and you do want them to be able to think for themselves, well, shoot, I don't know nothing. All I know is bad.
Right. And that's something that, like, I mean, again, I don't have kids, and I cannot even imagine. But it's like, what the more that I've learned about the brain, and also, like, especially the importance of, like, um, attachment, and, like, the nourishment from the mom is so important, like, especially, like, in infancy. But, when I am around my niece and she's 7, I just, like, wanna tell her, you can literally do anything that you put your mind to. Um,
And you
you know
should,
Yeah, and it's
no matter how crazy it is, because one, who cares? Like, she's 7 years old. Like, now when she turns 18 and she's getting ready to go to school and she says she wants to go to Clown University, maybe that's something we can talk about
right,
then. Maybe we can go over options then. But
right,
if the 7-year-old girl wants to dream and be
right,
Santa Claus, a professional Santa Claus when she gets
right,
older,
right.
who are you to tell her that she cannot do
And how
that?
often did we hear that in school? Like, and this is something I wish I knew. That's why I'm working with teens. But, like, when I was in school, um, I mean, and I have such a good example from college too, but when I was in school, I looked at my GPA or whatever, and I had the thought and belief that I wasn't good at math. So I was like, well, I can do this, this, and that's it. But that's not true. Like, again, from the example from earlier, if you tell yourself you can't, then you won't.
Mhm.
Whatever you tell yourself, guys, you're right. Because you're going to produce evidence, and the brain likes evidence, and, to keep those patterns and to be efficient, you're gonna believe it. And then it's like, and again, those thoughts are so natural that it's like we're fish in water. We don't even realize what we're doing. And that's when mindfulness comes in. And I used to think that was like a woo-woo, like, word or whatever. But I have been reformed. But it's basically just awareness. When you when you make a new dish and it doesn't turn out the way you wanted, what do you do?
First, I like scream for about 10 to 12 seconds. And
Yeah,
then I literally, like, I just start over. Like, I don't sit down. Like, I literally just start over. Because I feel like if I rest, I lose that momentum.
yeah,
And you know, it's probably usually if I'm trying something new, unless this is something that I'm creating, I'm following a recipe. So if I'm following the recipe and I do everything correctly, then I shouldn't mess up. But if
but
I'm trying to rush and I'm doing all this other
yeah,
stuff and I'm like, oh, I can finesse this or I can do this or I'm gonna just freestyle here. Okay, you didn't do what you were supposed to. And now we're gonna be here that much longer because we can do this and we're gonna get it right. There are some
right.
instances where it just it's late and I'll get back on it the next day. But one good example is when I first learned how to make caramel from scratch. I know caramel, caramel,
I don't
whatever,
care.
yeah, whatever
I
you
think I say
choose.
caramel, so whatever.
But I remember watching Kitchen Nightmares, I think it was, and somebody was on there making caramel and they kept burning it, and Gordon was yelling at them. So in my head, I'm like, all right, whisk, right temperature, keep whisking, don't burn it. Once it hits this color, take it off. So I'm whisking. It's looking great. It's looking so great. It's a beautiful amber color. I take it off. I let it cool a little. I taste it, and it tastes like burnt. It just tastes like burnt. And
Mm. Oh, I bet. That's so
I'm like, all right,
frustrating.
let's dump it out. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna
Oh,
do
this
it
reminds me of an
again.
egg.
And what I did, so the recipe that I was using, it gave like a time estimate, and it's different obviously for each quantity for however much you're making.
Mhm.
But did I follow the time estimate? No. I was like, well, Gordon just said once it turns this color, then
Right.
it's good. So the next time around, I actually followed the time recommendation, and it came out perfect. I was so happy, but I was also happy that I didn't give up because I was really frustrated. I think I had pulled like an all nighter, and this was like the last thing I had
Well,
to
that
do, and
is
this
cool.
freaking
Yeah.
caramel was burnt, and I was not happy. I was not happy, but
Yeah.
with the
And
finished product, you
this
gotta
is
work for it.
a perfect example. And the reason that you were able to get it right is because you had to, look at I'm almost like thinking of like my workspace and like look at, okay, where did I go wrong? Look at what I look at all the things that I'm doing and what I did and look at what's not going right here. That's basically like mindfulness in a sense.
Yeah.
It is, I think everyone should look into it, and there's lots of good research that has come out about how effective it is for anxiety and depression. Look into it. Look at the disclaimer.
I believe
Um,
that.
but how can we, or even like if you're in the gym and or even especially sports, like if I played softball, so if I'm not hitting the way, or like if I'm throwing and I'm not, and it's going over her head or whatever, how am I going to fix it if I don't slow down and look at what I'm doing?
Mhm.
Same thing with the brain. We
Mhm.
got to slow down and notice what patterns we have right now, and then we can begin to shift them with our attention. Our brain, unlike animals, has the ability to basically think about our thinking. Um, awesome, ruled by Venus, and hello, Primal Studies and Gretchen. Um, so we have to slow down and look at that. And also, too, when I'm thinking about my thinking, that's kind of how I prevent certain behaviors.
Yeah.
But hey, I don't always remember to use it either.
Yeah.
Gita's like,
It's
trust
I mean, it's
me.
a struggle, but sometimes
Yeah.
even if it's maybe not in the moment, sometimes I'm able to catch it like after the fact, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, like that
Learning.
was kind of messed up. I ain't have to do all of that, or I could have did this differently. Um,
Yeah.
because I think too, and a lot of times when we fail or we don't have the things that we want, like you said, we're like, well, this is the deck of cards that I have,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nothing I can do with these, so I'm just gonna sit here. Instead, just play the game,
Mm-hmm.
get through this game. You're gonna get another round of cards. You just gotta make it to
Right.
the next round. You're gonna get a new deck.
You're still in the game, like
People are
it's not
like, no,
over.
this is the deck I've been dealt. I can't change anything. You can't change anything. Nothing's ever gonna change. But it's just simply not true. But it's hard. It's hard to get through the game knowing that you're probably gonna lose this round. It's like, well, why am I playing? Because you're not playing to win this round. You're playing to get through this round so that maybe you can win the next round. But even to get that optimism, um, you gotta have something there to spark it. Because if you don't have that, your brain will literally just, okay,
Go
yeah,
back to
we
what it's
do
used
suck.
to.
These cards suck, we suck, you know, it
Yeah,
is
and
what it is.
and this is what's so interesting to me. And we're all humans here. We're gonna do, we can't we also are gonna live, like, we're not gonna be so, minute by minute, always
Hmm.
like perfect thoughts. But,
Yeah,
this is
no.
something that, trust me, just like learning that I can differentiate between my thoughts and facts, like
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, I was like, oh my God. And how your thoughts are optional.
Yeah.
That's for another episode. But
Because you can turn, certain things on and off. And I think, that's also something, mindfulness and perspective. My brain is brainstorming. So just
mhm,
because, I thought about this really bad thing, that's the beauty in it. You still have the choice. Do you want to do that, or do you want to do something else? Do you want to continue to think about this, or is there something else that we can put on our brain? So again, it's still ultimately up to you, whether the bad seed has been planted or not. You really
right.
have to want to take control. And I know in a lot of cases it's easier said than done, especially I feel like the older we get, um, you know, trying to open this door, the older
Mhm.
we get, it gets even harder to
Yeah.
open. It gets
Because
harder to find the key because we're so stuck in our ways.
right. And it's so easy to think like, well, I've been doing this for how many years? Like, why I can't change now. But I
Hmm.
mean, I had a client one time who she's a high school student, and she was trying out for soccer, and she was like, I'm probably not going to make varsity. And I was like tryouts were that week.
Hmm.
And I said, "Well, why?" If especially if we're thinking of future thought, like, we can't predict the future, but we can definitely kind of make it more likely if we're believing that, but, by not trying and whatever, but
Hmm.
and I said, "Well, let's look at both sides, like, what evidence and when we believe something, again, evidence, patterns." Well, she had all these reasons for why she probably wouldn't make it, but then come to find out, she literally played in, the, like, district, like, the tournament, the last season, like, as a freshman, and I was like, "You were a swing player." I mean, I played, high school sports. I was like, "You were a swing player, and you played up with varsity, and you played in the tournament." Like, while it's so easy for us to focus on all the reasons why we won't make it, yet you have another optional example that's available to you, and you're not choosing to think it. So I said, how does it feel? Like, let's kind of shift this a little bit. What would it be like to focus more on the fact that why not? Like, what would this team, this team has something I add value to this team, you know, especially when that's a fact that you played, with the team during the
Hmm.
tournament. So what do you wanna believe about what's possible for you? And you're probably what do we need to think about in order for you to, practice a little bit before tryouts? And she, went out and did footwork or whatever, and she made varsity. And I was like, "See, this is, available to you all the time. It's just what do you want to focus on? And what do you wanna think about? And what actions do you need to create the result that you want?" And basically, if you what's re what's the word I'm looking for? Reverse engineer, what you need to
Hmm.
do, well, with thoughts are more productive for you. It's
Hmm.
hard, but it's possible. The brain can do
Hmm.
this. It's called neuroplasticity and also automaticity, but we won't talk about that today. But, so I think let me see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I
say,
got a quick story too, real quick. I
yeah,
remember
tell me.
when
I
when I was
love
in
this. I love this.
I know when I was in, it's so funny too, because when I was in college and I was on the dance team, I had one of those coaches that would make us like run a routine like over and over and over and over and over again. And every time we run it, we're like, okay. And he would be like, all right, just one more time, and then run it, and then I'm like, all right, just one more time. We like, hold on. Like he like just do it full out. I promise, just one more time. And so like every single time, like we would end a routine and we like we dead. We don't have nothing else. We can't do it. We're tired. But that incentive that okay, just one more time, just do it one more time, full out. That last time wasn't full out for real. Just do it full out, and you keep giving it more and more each time. And eventually, we ended up so cold and in the best shape of our life. But one of my favorite exercises that he used to do, what he would pick two girls that kind of dance the same and tell them to just go next to stand by each other and do the routine. And so you thought that maybe, when you were dancing with the group that you did it full out. But now that he done put somebody right next to you, oh, baby, you're not going to show out on me.
Right.
And it would be
I
so
love that
funny, like
competition.
the extremes that some people would do. We'd be like, girl, we never even knew you had that much energy. Like, it would be so funny. Like, you were dead, exhausted,
And
tired,
that's
and
the
all
same
he did,
person too. Like minutes
yes,
before
yes,
doing it with a team, this is the same person.
yes, just because now you got somebody next to you, one, and now it's just y'all two, and all eyes are on you. You like, all right, adrenaline kick in, let's go. And it's literally all about what you tell yourself you can do. Just because you're tired, you can be tired. That doesn't mean that you need to stop. That means you're working hard. Like, go ahead and finish the workout. You didn't hit your peak, you burning your calories. Why stop now? Just because you broke a sweat. That's what you came here to do. It's
That's why I love
mind
a
control.
trainer especially like
I didn't
with
love him
cooking
back then.
and
I'm not gonna lie. He used to piss us off, but he
he
got us together.
well, and that's so interesting too. Like when you're working with a trainer or a coach, um, and yes, Jenny, you can drop the link if anyone wants to come up and
Link.
we'll chat about this a little bit. We got like about 25 minutes left. But it's like you think that you can't, and if anyone has read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, whew, he is a different type of human, that is for sure. Like the pain and everything that he's endured and what he has put his body through. But it's like we're so quick to, quit. But then it's like if I'm by myself working out, I would not have pushed like an extra like 5, reps, whatever. But when my trainer's like, no, 5 more, or like your coach, it's like, oh, I didn't even know I could do that. But it's so, I mean, it's just crazy. And every time I talk about these things, especially with other people, and I love like, you sharing your stories and like everything that you've added. Oh, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for that. But it's like, wow, we are capable of so much. Like, and we're in the driver's seat the whole time.
We got to
Um,
get past the programming, the factory settings. We
mhm,
restore the factory settings, and it's just a really difficult process, and it's not really something that, unless you branch out or do seek therapy or something of that nature, that a lot of times I just think that it doesn't even get acknowledged. I think still today there are a lot of people that don't believe mental issues are a real thing. People aren't really depressed. People aren't really don't have anxiety.
mhm,
um and I think that anybody that truly feels that way is in denial with themselves. They're hurting, they have
mhm.
something going on. There's just no way that you can go through life without being an emotional being.
For
Um,
sure. For sure.
you
Like
know,
we had to survive that way.
yeah,
Like, and it
yeah.
still is a thing.
And everything, trauma doesn't have to be, necessarily things that were scary. Things that were impactful to your life, things that made you
Mhm.
forever think differently or move differently. I think that, once we get to a certain age, everybody has gone through an experience like that, or had someone that, they thought was a friend, but they always kind of had to look at them sideways. They're always making comments and stuff. And, you know, your brain kind of told you like maybe this person isn't for me, but you didn't realize it, or you didn't listen to it until you had receipts. You had evidence. So now you're
Mhm.
hurt by this person, and now you don't want any female friends. You want to be by yourself. You miss a solo dolo.
Right.
You're not happy like that. I know you're not happy like that. I know you want
Right.
to go hang out with the girls and have a girls' night. Now you're afraid to interact with people because you made, one bad judgment.
Mhm.
Same thing when it comes to dating or relationships on any level.
For
Um,
sure.
but again, if you don't acknowledge it, my grandma used to always say, acknowledging is half the battle won. And it literally is such a big step, because where do you move if there's no problem to solve for?
Like the
If there's
caramel.
yeah, if there's nothing wrong, if you're perfect, and everything's fine, then what is step two? There is no step two. So you're just here, you're just stagnant. You know,
Right.
that's not even, we started off talking about how the brain is constantly changing. There's no way you can stay stagnant. Something has to change. Something has to
Right.
give.
Right. And it all starts, of course, it all starts with us. Like how we have basically wired and programmed our brain. And I see some stuff going on in the chat, but you know, people, I will say the biggest, change that I experienced for myself when I was learning this stuff was in my relationships and how I let people kind of, affect my emotions. Like if I said to you, um, Chef Big Al, like, I really don't like your blue hair, would you be mad?
No, I would probably laugh.
Why?
Because I'm confused why you giving me your unsolicited opinion, and I'm also confused why you think I would care.
Yeah, but I don't like your
But
blue hair.
that's literally like I literally used to be the person that wore her heart on her sleeve. Like
Yeah.
I would cry at the drop of a dime, and I had to realize, like, I give people so much power by being able to control my emotions, and
Mhm.
everyone's not going to like me. There's always going to be things, about me that people disagree with.
And you
If,
don't have blue hair. Like,
yeah.
you know?
And furthermore, I don't have blue hair. But if I did,
Mhm.
like, if you
Right.
sat up there, I mean, that's kind of like a huge decision. You sat up there, you probably had to bleach your hair first,
Right.
and then you had to dye it blue. This was probably like a 2-week process, and you've got
Yeah.
to condition it and keep it moisturized so it's not breaking off. This is something that you wanted and you worked for. Why the hell would you question what you were obviously so confident about because someone else doesn't like it? Like,
Right. And it's like, well, and if you're saying something about me, like again, with my client who had the two different, options of thinking about how she can definitely make varsity, she can do it, let's go, or how she probably won't. Those are both available. So if like, someone says something or if I interpret some type of behavior away, well, how am I going to act? Like when my boyfriend at the time, oh, okay, you're good. Did you change your, am I echoing? Okay. Well, I'll just keep going. But um and anyone can join the link if they want to come up and chat just a bit about what we've talked about. Very big topic, but thanks, DL. By the way, DL, I want to ask you if you used to live in Cincinnati. But if you can come up or if you want to just like chat or whatever. DL, are you
What's
from
good?
Cincinnati?
Yes, I am. I'm from Avondale.
Okay, I was listening to the show last night and I was like, wait, okay, mention GE, but I was like, well, yeah, people just know that, GE is a big, um, MP and G2 in Cincinnati. And then he mentioned Avondale and I was like, oh, well, maybe, there's another Avondale or something. And then you were talking about the crime and I was like, oh, he might be, he
Yeah,
knows.
you from the A1. Yeah. I grew up. Yeah, I
Wow.
grew up on Glenwood, and I mean, my grandmother lived in Candy Heights. I was in Avondale. I got family in Bond Hill, and I got family in the Fay. So I was all over. We had all those bases touched. I was everywhere you weren't supposed to be.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that. When did you move?
I left for the Army in 1990, and I came back in 94, and I left for good in 98. I went to LA, and that was it. I didn't come back.
LA. Interesting.
Yeah, I was in LA. You want to talk about getting your hair right? You know what I mean? You definitely need your hair right in LA. You know what I mean? That's Tinseltown. That's Hollywood. Like the Hollywood. All that is you got to be right. Like if you go out there and your head ain't right, it's gonna eat you up. Like LA ain't to be played with.
And I want you to kind of share about that. And I just still can't get over that you're from Cincinnati. That's crazy because,
Small world. It's funny. I'll
Yeah.
tell you this quick story, and then
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
talk about LA. But I'm a veteran of Desert Storm, right? So I was in Desert Storm. I went to Woodward. So
Yeah, I know.
yeah, I went to Woodward High School, which I think it's still there, but I don't know if it's a school. I don't know. It's gone through some different incarnations since I've been gone. But
Yeah.
I'm deployed. I'm in the middle of the desert, right? I'm in the middle of the desert somewhere in Saudi Arabia, just outside of Riyadh. Shout out to y'all people over there in Riyadh. Not really. But I'm over there. I'm walking through our base camp. And I'm looking for a guy that I went to airborne school with. So I'm like, I knew he was there. We had orders for the same place. It was a really big base camp. I'm walking to look for this guy, and I'm passing some dude. And I'm looking at this dude. It's a brother. He looking at me like I'm looking at him. And I'm like, damn, that dude looked familiar. Whatever. Shook it off. Went, found my dude. I'm in the tent or whatever. We chilling, chopping it up. And they was like, yeah, our man over here, man, he's from Cleveland. Ain't you from Cleveland? I'm like, nah, I'm from Cincinnati. They were like, oh, yeah, we think he's from Cleveland. I'm like, okay, word. Go back, see the same dude on my way back to my spot, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And came to find out, dude lived in Bond Hill. He went to Woodward with me. Yeah, he graduated graduated with my cousin. And I'm like, we met, we chopped it up. Like, we looking at each other like, bro, you from Cleveland? He was like, nah, I'm from Cincinnati. They said, you from Cleveland? I'm like, nah. I went to Woodward.
So crazy. And that is
I love
good.
stuff like that.
Oh my god, that is so crazy. Yeah, I'll put it, well, I don't know if I should even say it, but I'll put the back chat. But I grew up in Deer Park. I'm not there anymore. But
I've been chased out of Deer Park. We say it that way. I got a nice little police department over there in Deer Park. I've been chased out of there a couple times.
Really? Oh my gosh, that sounds crazy. Cincinnati, it's big. Like, there's like millions of people, but
It's little.
I know. Oh my god.
Cincinnati is little. Cincinnati is a very small town. And that story about me running across a dude I went to high school with in Saudi Arabia. I got another story about me in South Korea. Got another story. I ain't gonna tell you. We'll share that one. But talking about LA and having the mindset, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sorry y'all for getting off topic, but we got to chop it up a little bit.
I could not help it. It's been bugging me since I listened to the show, and I was talking to Jenny about it. I'm like, I gotta ask him. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm feeling. Like you said, I'm from the A1. You know what it is. So anyway, I'm in LA.
Yeah.
I'm in LA. And because I'm from the Midwest, because I'm from a city that's a small city, but it has like big city mentality. Like, you know what I mean? It's you can't be sleep. You got to have your mind right in that town. So we're in LA, and I'm watching people just get chopped up, like not physically chopped up, but mentally chopped up because they weren't ready for what they were getting hit with in LA. You know what I mean? And you have to be a mental giant. You know what I mean? You have to. Yeah, Black Man want to know who let this bald yellow guy on there. Man, I broke in here, cuz you can't kick me out neither.
I can't. He's so crazy. But like, what types of things, like, do you think like people weren't, because I'm in Cincinnati, that people weren't ready for when they got out there?
Hollywood is not a real place in the sense that you can get lost in your dream, right? If you're not careful, they're going to sell you your dream, whatever your dream is. And I've spoken about this on my platform. We've spoken about it on this platform. You're going out there to be an actor, a writer, a producer, a dancer, or you name it, right? So people will sell you that. If you don't know yourself, if you don't have that anchor, like, because I'm always going to be that dude from Avondale. No matter where I go, no matter what I do in my life, I cannot forget where I came from. But there are people who want to forget where they come from, and they go to places like LA and they forget. And then you start to go down these rabbit holes and you find yourself doing things that you wouldn't normally do. And you don't see the trouble around the corner, so to speak, because you ain't thinking that way. You're not mentally prepared to deal with people who are messing with your emotions. And I'm using nice words because I'm here with the ladies. I don't want to get too, too guttery with it. But I've seen so many people fall for it. I mean, and it's just like, you didn't see that coming, bro. You know what I mean? You didn't see that. Be it a finesse where someone said they're gonna read my script. I just got to pay them $1,500 and they're gonna give it to so and so. Really, bro? You really think they're gonna give your script to Steven Spielberg for $1,500?
Right.
And they fall for it. Or like, right.
Exactly.
Like, right. And then, you guys have all heard of the casting couch. That's a real thing. You know what I mean? And you had these masculine dudes like, man, ain't nobody on no casting couch. And that dude was just on the casting couch. Some man had him on the casting couch doing things to get a role. Y'all hear about Weinstein and what he did with the women, but y'all don't hear about those dudes who be making these propositions to other dudes. That goes on all the time. And if you ain't in the right mindset, that right mind frame, you ain't gonna see it coming.
That's true. That's like a ton of different things where it's like, and it's like something that I think is important for teenagers. It's like, if they don't like when they're we all have peer pressure and influence, but it's like when they want to do something because they think it'll get them the in, whether it's going to parties and like doing bad stuff, especially girls with boys. It's like, but how does that feel? Like you can't really ask yourself if that feels good if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, and if you don't know that that's actually not what you have to do, then you won't think anything of it. You won't question it, you know?
One question, I feel you reckon it feels dirty because they know they're doing wrong, especially if they come from that upbringing. And I'm telling you, these women go out here like, well, we got this role for you, but are you comfortable with your body? What do you mean? If the answer is, what do you mean? We gonna have her out of her shirt and in his G-string for this shot in 30 seconds.
Right.
You know, because that's how they come at you. You know what I mean? And then if you're not strong up here, like, well, I mean, everyone else is doing it. I mean, I'm only showing my breast, so I mean, it's not that bad. I'm only doing this. I'm only doing that.
Right.
It's like, you know what I mean? Next thing you know, you on Pornhub. You know what I mean? And you know it's wrong, but you getting the bread, but you didn't see it coming because you weren't mentally ready for it.
Right. And it's like we're not making decisions that we think that it's just something we have to do, or even when it's like decisions we've made before, it's like, well, why did you know you had a choice, and what were you thinking when you did that?
Right.
I think it also, like, he mentioned the upbringing. When ultimately, kids they become teenagers. They're their own individuals. They're ultimately responsible for the decisions that they make. But, I think that it's parents' job to instill confidence in them, common sense in them, not necessarily tell them what to do, but give them the ability to think, so that when they're faced with these decisions and these opportunities, and they're surrounded by these people who are acting like fools, they know not to do that. Or they know that, hey, I'm gonna do this, but I know this is dead wrong, and I'm aware of the consequences, and I'm willing to risk it. It's not to say they never gonna touch the stove and they're not gonna get their hand burnt, but I'd rather you make a decision with everything, being able to consider all the factors. I think a lot of teenagers, especially when it comes to young ladies, they don't see the bigger picture before they make the decisions. They don't realize the potential outcome. Yeah, I may know this might be wrong. This might not feel right. This might be something new. This might be different. But it's literally girls, that have done things with these older men or these older boys, and they've traumatized to the point, but they're unaliving themselves,
Yeah,
and
to
these
be
are things that they
cool
never,
or
these are
popular,
things
like
that
ML
they
said.
never come back from. And then when sometimes, these things, like, they got the parents. I'm so glad that phase is over, where the parents were all on YouTube and shaving off their kids' heads and stuff. Like, when you don't put that confidence in your kids, you leave them so vulnerable. That's why when kids do them little boo-boo drawings, you put them up on the refrigerator. Wow, oh my gosh, mom, look at this, jump. Oh my gosh, you about to, yes, gymnastics. Like, it doesn't, having building that confidence and being able to have the mindset and the ability to make a decision based off common sense and not impulse or what everybody else is doing,
Right.
it can literally just be life-changing.
For
It can be
sure.
life-changing. Birds of a feather do not always flock together. That is not true. That is not true.
Right. Beautifully animated. What's going on? Man, Jenny made me laugh. don't like your blue hair, right? It's an example we always use. But I like your
that
blue hair.
Thanks.
Unless she said it didn't matter anyway.
Right.
Hey,
Like,
you summoned it. I came with the blue hair.
I love it. What you got on the topic for us? What you thinking?
I know I told a story about how my mom didn't show up for me for Taekwondo, for my first Taekwondo tournament, whatever. And that didn't keep me from going to Taekwondo. But what did stop me from going to Taekwondo is that we all went out one night. And like I said, this is in my younger adult years, whatever. And we went out to eat, and then there was talks about going to the club. And they, like, we're all driving together, and then they ditched me. So that's what stopped me from going to Taekwondo. And it's like it's the worst mistake because I loved Taekwondo and the school and stuff like that. But it was a trigger for me because I had already been dealing with abandonment issues from my own family and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I wish I had therapy way before then and had gotten the strength and the knowledge to deal with that. And I probably would have still stayed in Taekwondo.
Yeah. And then you didn't have that either now, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
You got to look at that as well. I mean, as kids, you know, parents want to do the best. I mean, and on this platform, we were talking about what do we owe our children as parents, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things that get overlooked. You know what I mean? You must build up your children's confidence for those situations. You know, I was in LA again. You got a lot of people who aren't mentally strong. There was a grown up who got left. You're same what you're talking about, beautifully animated. Same thing. You're just young girl, 20 something. We were on Sunset. This is when Sunset was popping, man. We were at Saddle Ranch, which is like the hottest spot in Sunset at the time. Her friends left her there. She was so drunk she could barely stand up. Right. Her friends left her at the bar. And I'm like, she had been talking to me earlier, and I rolled by myself. It was some dudes. The sharks were circling. They saw what was going on. She was there. She didn't know what to do. This is before Uber. Right. And she's sitting there. And I felt bad for the girl. And the thing is this, I did a good thing, but I really put myself at risk. Right. I took her home. I'm like, look, where do you live?
I was just thinking that you was going to say
and
that.
Where do you live? Like, you know, and she lived.
Yeah,
she lived in Hollywood. I'm like, here I am. This is this young white girl. Here's this black dude. She's in my car. This film of her leaving with me, getting into my car, and I'm taking her to her place.
And thank God for you.
But I took a real big risk. You know what I mean? Because I could have got caught up. She's in the car. She's crying. She's a mess. She knew she was drunk. She knew her friends abandoned her. And I'm like, how did you get into this situation? She saw the same shark circling that I saw. So she was like, either I go with this guy or I deal with these dudes.
Wow.
What she had a choice to make in her drunk mind. She never should have gotten herself into that situation. It never should have gotten that far because she, again, not strong-minded enough. What parent let you out the house when you weren't prepared for these wolves? And you out here in Hollywood. You know what I mean? This is in the late 90s. Like, shorty. You know what I mean? I took her home, never saw the woman again, took her to her place. She was crying. I made sure she got into the outer door. Like, you got to get into that outer door so I can leave. Like, please go into the outer door.
The same way. I will not
and then I got her there
until I see you safely inside.
Oh, yeah. I watched too much true crime for that.
Right. And
but again, if that's
me being a female, I don't care who I'm dropping off. I don't care if I'm dropping off a man or a woman. I'll wait until you go inside, lock the door, you know, flash the lights that I'm inside and stuff like, you know what I'm saying? All that stuff.
But the point is,
her
mindset was such that she got herself into this situation. Like, you know, someone didn't properly prepare her for the world that she was going into. You're going down to LA, and I mean, women were getting snatched up and terrible things were happening all the time. And this is before the cell phones as we know it, the smartphones and all that. There were some cameras, but not a lot of cameras. You know what I mean? The camera, it wasn't 1080p. It wasn't 5K. It was like this grainy.
The quality.
Right.
Should.
So this woman really put herself in a situation. I could tell you half a dozen stories like that when I was in LA. And it all boils back to mindset. What are you doing? I mean, this isn't. And why?
Well,
and go ahead.
And not only her life.
Didn't teach their kids the difference between a friend and an associate, and you know, there's different levels of friendship. The word friend does not necessarily mean I'm with a pack of people who's gonna have my back. You know what I'm saying? And they weren't even associates, because I don't even know associates who would do that mess.
I do.
Well, I'm saying I don't hang around those people.
Right,
if I can't trust you at all, I don't hang with you. Not even as an associate.
Yeah.
Now today I won't do that. You know, since Me Too, I would never do that. That she would have been. I'd have left her to the sharks. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I never would take that chance.
But
not only did she risk her life, but
to her,
she risked your life.
You feeling really bad about it and hear about it on the news, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm heartless. I won't feel bad about shit. You shouldn't have been there. You should have had your mind right.
Right.
I'll tell the police what I saw. Yeah, I'll tell the police what I saw. Yeah, I'll fill out a report. Yeah, I saw her dumbass over there getting drunk. Yeah, I saw the dude circling. No, I don't know who they are. You know what I mean? Y'all got cameras. You know what I mean? But nah, you can't. We live in a world in which you have to think, you have to put yourself first. I would never take that risk now.
But again, sucks that it's like this, but it is. It is like this now.
I had a story where somebody was a similar situation, but I'm pretty sure they knew the person, but they didn't ride together. The friends left them. They were drunk. They took them home, but they were still trying to like go out and party and whatever. And so they dropped them off at home, and they immediately like left back out, like got in their car and left back out after the person dropped them off at home, and got down the block and wrapped themselves around the tree and ended up passing away. Like, so, you know, it's like, you know, it's Russian roulette. It's Russian roulette.
Long-term thinking, like, come on, let's be smart. Like, you know what? And we're gonna go to final thoughts.
Like things like that, situations like that. I'm like, you know, your friends, like the people that you came with, they know that you be getting turned. I'm sure this isn't the first time, because they ain't even trying to babysit you or looking out for you or anything. They gone. If they know,
if you don't want to babysit you, then don't take that person with you.
Okay? Because I don't care about the attitude that you have while you at home. I'm not inviting you. If you can't hold your liquor, if you're going to be up and down the street, I'm not chasing you down the street. I'm not holding your hair over the toilet. I'm too old for that. You too old for that. You go sit home at home and drink. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not that friend. It's not going down with me. It's not going down with me.
That's why you need that mindfulness. This is why people need to sit down and really think. You know, got to sit down and think about what you're doing. If you got to sit down with a pro, do that. You know what I mean? But if you can sit down and just meditate or whatever you want to call it, sit down with yourself, clear your thoughts, you know, clear your mind. Like you clear your mind and be able to think. And then, you know, if people aren't doing that, you know, I can understand why we have the society we have now, because people just out here reckless. Why? Because they haven't been taught to think. They're not watching, you know, content like this and was like, you know, I mean, this is a great show. Like, I'm always watching. I'm normally ninja watching. I'm always watching because y'all got some good stuff.
It's like, what are the outcomes that you want? You know? Yeah. And in that moment, they had a choice. So what could happen, you know? But you have to be aware and you have to think and manage manage your thinking. So let's do final thoughts. Oh, this was good. Thank you guys all for being here. Beautifully animated. What you got? Final thoughts.
Well, I had another thing to say. Was about model mayhem. You know, like DL was saying, how people are going out there for acting jobs, modeling jobs, and stuff like that. You have to be careful. Like if something doesn't feel right, because I was at this one photo shoot and they didn't have a changing room. They had a divider. And had me change behind there and stuff like that. I'm like feeling weird all about it and whatever. And then like later on,
that's your gut,
right? And it's like, I'm not dealing with this dude no more. And I hope no videos pop up of me changing and stuff like that, because you know it was during that time where there's a possibility that they had a hidden camera somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? So just be careful out there in these streets. That's all I gotta say.
That's good. Yeah. We could always hear that. That's for sure. Thank you, girl. All right. DL.
Yeah, like you want to be like, you know, you guys were talking about mindfulness and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, you guys got technical there for a second. Y'all were delving in for a second, but you have to, people, y'all got to start thinking. Like really start thinking, being aware of your mind, being aware of these things. Y'all, just rocking the way y'all rocking, you know what I mean? It's not gonna do you any favors. Like, yeah, we're talking about the obvious stuff. Like, yeah, don't go out and get drunk, so drunk that you can barely stand up with people you don't know. All right,
Right.
yeah, duh.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who are like, nah, these are my friends. How long have you known them? I don't know, 30 minutes. Getting wicked with them, you know what I mean? So, and then after when it's all said and done, you come back home and it's like, oh, it's not my fault. Don't blame me. It was what Jamie Foxx say. Blame it on the alcohol. Why did you do that? What's going on in your world where you feel you must do that? You know what I mean? Like, so sit with yourself, figure it out. You know what I mean? It's like what Coach K was saying. What Coach K was saying. Have a plan. Where are you trying to be next week, next month, next year, 5 years? Think that stuff through. How you going to get there? You know what I mean? Self-assess. Like, well, how can I be a better person? How can I, you know what I mean? How can I improve myself? You know what I mean? How can I do my ancestors proud? Going out, getting shit-faced, you know what I mean, with a bunch of random people, or going out getting drunk and letting some dude you just met blow your back out. That's not doing your ancestors proud. They sitting there shaking their head like, man, what the hell? How did she wind up in our line? You know what I mean? And simply because society ain't gonna hold you to account for it. Society can't shame you. You know what you did was wrong, and it's still up here. So you have to go and you have to sort that out and make it right with you. So, and that goes for dudes too. You out here being Mr. Tough Guy. You know what I mean? You don't pull your thing out and shot at somebody, you got away with it, but it's still up here, and you're like, well, maybe that wasn't my bullet to hit the little 5-year-old baby.
Right.
And like, bro, you was the only one out there shooting. Whose bullet was it?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Still out there, regardless, doing it. Like,
so make it right in your mind. So yeah, like I said, y'all keep doing what y'all doing. This is fire. Like I said, I be ninja watching, looking back, looking out. Like,
thank you for being here.
that's
Seriously,
fire.
I appreciate all of you guys for being here. So thank you so much. Big Al, you have any final thoughts you want to share? I guess. Okay.
I'm about to say they clicked off the wrong one.
I know you're on the big screen. Okay. Bye, beautifully animated Andiel. Thank you again. Thanks, Jenny. You're awesome.
Yes.
Big Al, what you got? Any
Yeah.
final thoughts for us?
You know, life is really hard, and you know,
For sure.
you have to be patient with yourself, and you have to be kind with yourself, and you also have to be realistic, and you have to accept that, you know, no matter how strong of a wall that you've built up, you know, everyone has vulnerabilities.
Mhm.
Everybody sometimes needs to heal, and it's very, very important to heal, because when you don't, you sabotage yourself, you sabotage your relationships, you sabotage so much. And when I say yourself, not just, you know, your mental, but your physical too. A lot can suffer when you don't wholeheartedly love yourself. You do
Right.
things that aren't necessarily good for you. Surround yourself with people that aren't necessarily good for you. You just create a whole bunch of bad habits, and you feel like this is the life that you deserve because this is the life that you're working for. And you know, a lot of the times we get caught up in these fairy tales, and we think someone is going to come along and save us and do all the hard work and rub us on the back, and just the chances of that happening, it's no. You've got to do it. You've got to do it. You've got to put the work in yourself. Be smart, make smart choices, listen to your intuition. Even if you can't put your finger on it, if it doesn't feel right, it probably is not right.
Right.
So, you know, your brain, it controls a lot. It talks to you without words. So you just have to listen to it, and it'll get you together
Right.
if you let it. If you let it, it can
Right.
also mess you up, but it can also
That's
get you together.
that's for sure. So it's like, hey, remember we first introduced this topic with the iPhone slash, computer analogy. So if it's not functioning right, you got to take a look. You might not have, I guess, coded it or whatever the right way.
You the CEO, the programmer, the
Yes.
creator, the president. If it's not doing what you want it to do,
You got to take a look. You
yeah,
might have
no
to
matter
rewire some
what
stuff.
your mom did when you was 5, or what your dad didn't do when you were 12, or
Mhm.
what your first girlfriend or boyfriend did to you,
Right.
none of that matters. You are in control of everything
Of the
that
now.
you allow yourself to be in control of. So
For sure. And I just want everyone to leave knowing that they already have everything that they need already, like you're already 100% complete because you're here. I'm a Christian, so I know you were here. You are here for a reason. God created you to be here. That's no mistake. How do we know? Because you're here. So it's like you have everything you need now. And it's never too late to make a change. It's going to be uncomfortable. Let me repeat, it will be uncomfortable, but it is
It's
worth
probably
it.
gonna be real ugly too.
What?
It's probably gonna be real ugly too. Get
For
some
sure.
Kleenex.
For
But
sure.
that gold at the end of the rainbow.
Because you know what else is ugly and uncomfortable? The way that you're living right now. You don't like what you're doing. So be uncomfortable either way, getting the outcome that you want or doing what you're doing. So I hope everyone got, a better understanding a little bit about what the brain is, capable of, what you're capable of. Be sure to leave a like like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, if you enjoyed the show. If you have any, questions or topics you want us to talk about, email is in the description. Thank you all for being here. Until next time, see ya.